Guys, welcome to another episode of Rennch. Oh, have I missed you so much. This is a mega update video. I've got a ton of stuff to show you and tell you about. We've got new projects here in the garage. We've got a bunch of new equipment to use for putting these cars together. I've got a bunch of stuff that's been delivered for the green car, for Rustmageddon, for this other car, including some things you've literally never seen on a vintage 911 in your life. I've got some parts for the green car that have finally been delivered from overseas. Just so much to catch you up on. Do not miss a moment of this episode. Let's get into it. Well, I mean, hi. I know, it's been a good little minute. There's a really good reason for it, and that reason is cash money. Now, as you guys know, I don't really make anything from the Rennch YouTube channel. A couple $100 a month, really. And I get some equipment, I get some stuff sent my way, but unfortunately that does not pay the bills. So I've taken on a couple of projects. That's where I've been, is just cranking on these projects like head down. I've also taken on a couple of podcast launch clients, which is like what I really do for a living. And that's been good, finally picking up again after like a 2-year layoff, thankfully. So I haven't been able to put any time into the Blasphemy build for a little while, but that is due to change very soon. I've also got a couple of projects. You guys have seen Rustmageddon, which is behind me here and is less rusty than when you saw it last time, and a new project you haven't seen yet, but I will introduce you to that one in a few minutes. First, let me show you a couple of really cool updates for the Blasphemy build. Okie dokie. So this is my oil tank. This was a stock Porsche 911 oil tank that I then sealed up because I need a radiator overflow tank for the Blasphemy build. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could get this radiator tank in the exact same spot as the oil tank? So it's like, that's where it's meant to be in the car. So I totally cleaned this thing out and I welded this up and I fixed some rust. Always with the idea that I would eventually make a nice aluminum version of the radiator overflow tank, but I didn't have the money, because I knew it was going to be like $500 in materials. Well, finally that changed, and I mocked up this version, which is basically a clone of the original one. And I made it out of cardboard. I made sure it fit the car. So I took the cardboard, I measured carefully, and that ended up with this piece of paper, which has all the dimensions on it, which I then uploaded to Fiverr.com, and I paid a dude $15 to just take that picture and bring it into Fusion 360 and export all the files I needed for that. So instead of me taking a couple of hours, I just said, let me outsource it to a dude who all he does is Fusion 360 stuff. So took that stuff, sent it to Send Cut Send, who made all of these things out of 6061 1/8" aluminum, and that is this entire pile here. That is all of this stuff, still shrink wrapped at the moment. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that seems like a lot of aluminum, and you're right, it is. What I did is I got 2 full sets because I wanted to give myself a little wiggle room to try to do it myself. I've never really welded aluminum before, and my TIG welding has not been great. However, we're gonna get into my new equipment in a second, but I have a spool gun now, and I have a new welder now. And so what I did here is I ordered from Amazon. These are what are called coupons, depending on where you're from. These are 6061 aluminum, 1/8". These are things that you can practice on. So I picked up this 90-degree jig from Harbor Freight, of course, and I'm gonna practice either with my spool gun and or with a TIG welder, trying to weld these things up until I get them to where I'm comfortable with it. And at that point, I will then attempt to assemble one of these. If I blow it, I've always got Robert. Robert's the guy who welded my exhaust up for the Blasphemy build. And he's available, so I can always get him to come and do it, and which would be great. But I would like to actually take a shot at doing this myself. Now, the next cool delivery that you've never seen in a vintage 911 in your life this is the center gauge of all Porsche 911s. This is the TAC. This is the important gauge in a vintage 911. This rides dead center in front of your steering wheel. It's about 4.5 inches large. Well, as you guys know, I've got this Haltech Elite 2500 in there, and I have a lot of ambitious goals for how I can integrate the Haltech using CAN bus with like smart speakers like Siri and Alexa and things like that. So I've decided that in addition to this center gauge, but its right and left partner, I want to go all LCDs. So I've ordered from Asia LCD screens, and these things come with their own little HDMI board. This is all above my pay grade, but this is a 5-inch circular LCD. So I'm hoping to be able to make like a 3D printed case for this, and this will, it won't ride on top of the gauge, but basically I will make 3D printed bezels that look like this. I will put them around here, and this thing will sort of slot in, and I'll be able to put this in the standard spot, but it'll be a screen instead of this analog gauge. I have some very ambitious goals for those screens, not the least of which are, I've got the front camera, the rear camera, 2 side view cameras that are hidden in the mirrors, and I want to be able to run those cameras inside these screens when I'm like turning right or left or something like that. It's all programmable using like a Raspberry Pi or some sort of computer. I don't know anything about it yet, and I'm going to have to get some external help because I'm obviously not a computer programmer, but I can have the vision and I can go, okay, someone who knows more than me, let's make this thing rock, shall we? So that's the plan. Unfortunately, the company I got the gauges from sent me a 5-inch circle and then 2 3-inch squares, and I ordered 2 4-inch squares. The 4-inchers will actually take the right and left gauges, but unfortunately this will not fit. So that's a drag. We'll have to figure that out when the time comes, but hopefully they will send me some new gauges, and that'll be awesome. Now, I have 2 new amazing pieces of equipment in the shop that I cannot wait to show you. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Guys, buying a used car these days, pretty gnarly. You meet some rando on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and agree to meet either at your house or in some random parking lot. And you're expected to look at this car. You don't really know the history of it. You don't really know the mechanical history of it. You have no idea if that person you're talking to is the actual person that they say they are. You don't know if the money they give you, if it's like a cashier's check or a bank check, is fake. You have no way to verify any of this information, and it is really sketchy. That's where Private Auto comes in. Look at how Private Auto is going to change how we buy and sell cars in the future. Gang, Private Auto is the easiest way to buy or sell a car privately. If you're selling a car, you can easily add a vehicle to their listing site. You can set security preferences to help filter out unwanted interactions. If you want, you can choose to only communicate with verified users. Anyone who's been verified with Private Auto has been screened using driver's license verification with facial recognition technology. As a buyer, you can easily schedule a test drive and make an offer. Even better, with their fancy chat feature, you can safely communicate without using your personal contact information. Completing a transaction is easier than ever with Private Auto. Each step of the deal gives you escrow-like safeguards without relying on a third party. First, both parties can verify and approve information such as the sale price and odometer reading. Next, both parties can easily sign and approve the electronic bill of sale. Finally, transfer payment instantly and securely using Private Auto. What could possibly be easier? So that's Private Auto. For you guys, for my viewers, they're giving 40% off any listing fees if you want to sell your car. I've got a link in the description below because they are my first sponsor of the channel. I would love if you would click on that link, download the app, check it out. It'll make me look good to the higher ups over at Private Auto. But more than that, you can get a killer app to buy and sell your car. Now, on with the show. All right, so behind me here is the Rust-mageddon project, which is, I'm going to show you in a second, far less rusty than it was the last time you saw it. Part of the reason for that is one of the two pieces of equipment that I've gotten since we've been away. Now, you guys remember my die cutting machine that I used for the Blasphemy build to make my stickers, you know, like my Rennch sticker on the back of the car, or my Blasphemy build stickers I did on the calipers. That is the Vivor die cut machine that you can get from Amazon. It's super cool. You can use it for a ton of really cool car projects. Like, it's one of those things when you see some hot rod car and you see all the logos and stuff from all the people that have contributed or sponsored the build. That's what it cuts, those kind of die cut stickers. So they reached out to me and they were like, hey, you know, I hope you liked the cutter. Do you want to do something else? And I said, sure. And they offered me this air jack, which is really cool. It's like a pneumatic air jack. You just hit a button, the car goes, shh. But I was like, well, I would totally dig that. It's just coming out. I'm psyched to check it out. However, you have something else on your website that I'm really intrigued by, and I have a lot of cutting to do on this vintage Porsche. Could you send me this? This little cutie is the Vivor Cut 50P plasma cutter. This is a 240. It also runs on 110. I didn't have a lot of luck in the 110 version, to be honest. It just didn't work that well. As soon as I plugged it into the 240, it was way better. So I'm just using it in 240 mode now. But don't use my experience as the example. I've never had a plasma before, so it took me a little while to dial it in. But man, is it cool! Because I mean, you just go, and it just cuts the whole thing off. It's really unbelievable. So this is $225. It is so well worth it. You can see that, like, on the Rust-mageddon, I've cut the whole floor out with it. Like, it just makes it so easy to just carve through instead of making all of that mess. It just friggin' zap like butter, I tell you. It comes with everything you see here. I will be using it in multiple videos, but I will kind of walk through it as we go. But again, for $225, this is it's small, it's super compact, it's very light. It's got really nice equipment. Like, this is like a nice ground clamp, and you know, it feels a little more solid than you'd think for this, you know, $225 piece of equipment. And then, guys, the creme de la creme, as they say in the creme business, finally, after literally years of asking, Harbor Freight sent me something cool. This is their top of the line Vulcan. Hey, Vulcan A. This is their top of the line Vulcan Omni Pro 220 welder. So this thing does MIG, TIG, stick, and this, which is the aluminum spool gun, which is so freaking cool. Like, it's like you're welding MIG, but with aluminum, which is so neat, which is why I want to try it on my oil tank over there. Here's what I'll tell you. And I'm going to do like a full formal kind of review deal on this thing, but all you do is you tell it what size wire you have. So in my case, I'm using .025 welding wire. And then you just tell it how thick your material is, all with the LCD screen. And you go boop and you hit, and then it automatically sets your wire speed and your amperage for you. And I can't tell you how unbelievably smooth it welds. This is one of those things where I just didn't know what I was missing. I had no idea what a great welder felt like. And now I know what a great welder feels like. So this thing is nothing but solid. It's a great piece of kit. They really thought of a lot of stuff. Like, they're trying to put this thing up against, you know, the Millers and the Lincolns. But like, check this out. It comes with this thing, which is this rad little gauge. And you just say, you know, how it's like, okay, what size are you trying to weld? And you go, cool, this is 18 gauge right there. So then I just tell it, yeah, 18 gauge, and it's, you know, steel, and it automatically sets everything else up for me. And it's really close. Like, I've tweaked it a little bit here and there, depending on what I'm doing on Rust-mageddon over here. But pretty much it's laying down lovely, flat, penetrating welds. So, by the way, when this video comes out, which is going to be this week, they are having a massive sale at Harbor Freight Instead of 1,200 bucks, I think this thing is $9.99. Go buy it. If you need a welder, go buy this welder. It is well worth twice the amount of money that you will pay for it, and you'll have everything you need. I haven't TIGged with it yet, so I'm going to try that. Part of my issues, I think, TIG welding, were just not knowing what settings to do. So I'm really excited to see, like, with this kind of auto setting thing, if I can have slightly better welds with this bad boy. So could not be more excited for this new welder. Again, this is also a 240 outlet only, so you have to make sure you have that thing, but everything about it is so solid. The power cord's solid, the grounding clamp is really solid. Like, it just feels like a really nice piece of kit. So check out reviews like on YouTube with people that are like pro welders, and you will see how great this piece of kit is. All right, let's update you guys on Rustmageddon, which is a lot less rusty than it was the last time you saw it. I've done a significant amount of work on this car. I have replaced this, which is like the main first piece to the floors. Like, it's what the floor's attached to. It's what the rocker's attached to here. It's just a massive chunk. I fabricated this piece here that is going to make this patch. I fabricated this part here, which is the lower half. And that one's all done with flange holes. I've still got to do all the weld grinding here. This thing is pretty much buttoned up on this side. And what happens is there's another layer that goes here, and then this outer layer that goes over the top. So the next thing I'm probably going to do on this thing is drill out these spot welds and at least cut a chunk of this quarter panel off. The whole thing really needs to go. The whole thing is going to be replaced. But I need to be able to get into this area so that I can weld this thing all up. So for fun, I got tired of grinding the other day, and I just started cutting out really bad, gross, rusty pieces and putting some of these lovely brand new Restoration Design pieces in, just clamped. They're just there. Isn't it amazing how much this thing cleans up? The second you cut out the rust and just clamp the new piece on, you go, oh, okay, yeah, this is gonna be a car again. So I put these two pieces on just because I really wanted to see what it looked like with a kind of a nicer front end. As you can see, the Gray Ghost is back. This is not anywhere near going to be done. I'm actually going to be doing a lot of videos and showing you guys a lot of these processes, because Restoration Design doesn't have some videos on some of these things. And the reason why I haven't taken you on this ride already is I wanted to do this one first, so I had some idea of the order of operations, so I wasn't kind of like making a video and not knowing anything about what I was doing. I'm gonna get this one sealed up and buttoned up, and then when I flip the car over, I will take you guys through the process of doing this entire piece on the other side, and probably literally everything I just did, I'm gonna have to do over again over there. So not to worry, you will be included in this process. But we're coming right along. Rustmageddon is coming right along, you guys. All right, next I'm gonna show you guys a project that's chilling in the backyard right now. And we are actually going to do some work on this thing today with you. This little cutie, as you will see in a minute, needs a little bit of love. All right, so this is a buddy's car. This is a 1967 911. And what somebody had done, and hopefully I'll be able to find you a picture of this, is first of all, they put wide body flares on this car. These cars, first of all, were short wheelbase cars. Also, they never had wide flares on them. This is not what this car is meant to do. You can see I have not touched the front fenders or the front wheels, which were 9s and 11s by 17. There were so many things wrong with this. So my client got himself some new steel wheels, which are gonna be great. I have cut off these awful wide body flares. And here's what's crazy, you guys. Because they were for long wheelbase cars, the wheel sat forward in the wheel well. Like, it didn't even look right. It was really terrible. So finally, I had to cut the thing right off. So I've cut these off on each side, and we've just gotten a delivery of the fenders a few days ago. So what we're going to do here today is, what I'd like to do is cut the fenders and get them laid up on the car with some tech screws, because then it's just going to be a matter of, like, you know, digging in and welding and grinding and doing all the things we do to make this thing work. So let's grab those fenders and see what we've got to cut. All right, guys, let me show you my plan of attack. Now, this car behind me has beautiful door gaps, like really, really good. The gaps around the front, around the back, they're all like this perfect amount. So I'm not gonna mess with those. What I would rather do is a little more welding and fitment to avoid having to drill out the entire quarter panel, replace it, and then try to dial in the gaps, which can take sometimes like a week. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna cut the quarter here on the inside, and I'll cut it through the top and right off of this edge here. And then on this end, I'm gonna cut it before the light box. And hopefully what that enables me to do is lay the entire panel on top, then use the stock rear bumper to align with the back of the panel so the fit is perfect. We are going to be going with fiberglass bumpers on this, but if you have the opportunity, always use OEM to dial in the fit and then use the fiberglass to fit to it. We always want this thing to be the factory fit. So what we do is just cut this beautiful brand new quarter panel apart, kind of like I did on the Blasphemy build. Actually, I did the exact same thing, and not mess with this entire front latch area. So I'm gonna mark this thing off and cut it, and then get these rear bumpers on, and hopefully get some tech screws in and get the thing aligned, and we're gonna see how it looks. By the way, I forgot to mention before, if you are a programmer and you know about Raspberry Pi and programming and things like that, please drop me a line. I'm going to need some help with my LCD monitor situation. So if you can help, that'd be sweet. Boom. Now this is a very nice first rough fitment. It's going to be awesome. Ultimately, I'll probably just use like this much, you know, so I'll cut kind of a flare out of this thing. But I need to do a couple things first. I need to go hit up my buddy here who has this green car and get exact measurements from here to here and make sure that is millimeter precise, and then do the same thing here from you do it from the jack point to the front of the hole for the torsion bars. So I need to make sure that is all totally dialed before I do anything else. This is a very rough fit. And unfortunately, for some reason, this bumper will not fit on this car. The oil tank is in the way. So I guess I can't really use those bumpers like I thought I could, which is a total drag. So now I just have to get those exact measurements, and that's okay. Not a huge deal, but look how awesome. I mean, God, if you saw this thing when it came in with these really wonky flares, they just look so bad. And this thing's gonna be really cool and hot rod when it's done. All right, she's slim and sexy again. So the flares are on. I kind of started fitting the rear bumper, but it needs a lot of work. I can't even fit it right now. But I got both quarters on, and they're gonna be great. So what I'll do next is I'll bring it into garage. I'll clean the edges up. I will jack the car up and trace the inside with a marker. And then I've got to get exact measurements like I showed you guys before on each side. I will then do the cut and butt, as you've seen many times on this show, and get this thing tacked on. I really need to take a lot of care and make sure that this panel stays as flat as humanly possible. So I've got to keep it cool and really work the tacks, probably to each side. You know, tack one here, go to the other side, tack it, grind them all down, do it again. Like, it's a very arduous, painstaking process, going to be requiring a lot of hammer and dolly. But then once that's done, we can start mucking around with the front end and get this thing a nice tight little package. Well, I think she looks good. She looks much better like that. It's gonna look really good when it's all dialed in. It's got nice narrow body flares on. It's got these beautiful steel wheels. It's gonna be slate gray. It's gonna be a cool little early hot rod. So that is gonna do it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the updates to the Blasphemy build, Rustmageddon, this little cutie, which I don't have a name for yet. My new toys in the shop, look for those to be used, and I'll show you guys kind of a full review of all that stuff in the next few videos. And that's it. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Thanks so much for hanging in there. See you later.